Hey guys, so for the last 3 days, you guys should have been on Google Classroom and you would have been doing a bunch of readings. I do apologize because I know the readings were long. It was basically like a chapter. They're not super long, like for instance, this would be 15 pages, but it covers a lot of stuff. Now, I tried to take what I thought was useful from the 3 chapters, all about citizenship and society. If you'll notice, one chapter definitely focuses on just what society looks like, what our communities looks like, our family trends. So I tried to get a lot of census data for this video. Another chapter focuses on education, like the purposes, critical thinking, thinking for yourself, bias, and I'm going to cover that as well tomorrow. And then I'm probably going to cover then on Monday just citizenship in like your community. So what can we actually do? So I think that's a great way to end our lessons. So I do plan on ending it all on Monday then. We'll give you some time to study for the final, give you your final, move on to our final project, and that's our year, right? But for today, we're going to just get a better image of the US as it is in recent years. So the book is a little dated. I believe it's around 10 years old. So a lot of the data that I use today is taken from the recent census, or at least in the last 3 years or so. All right, so that's what we'll be looking at. To start, as you guys know, we want to look at the bell ringer and answer them in Google Classroom comments. All right, number 1, describe the qualities and actions of a good citizen. This is the emphasis of this unit, 13 through 15, the chapters. So tell me, like, what should you be doing, or what should I be doing? Should I be studying anything? Should I be paying attention? Should I be active in doing something? So give me just a little short list of what you think a good citizen looks like, and hopefully together you guys can almost make like a wiki style page that we can just put it all together and take a look and say, this is what we should be doing. Hopefully. That'd be great. Number 2, what should students learn in civics in general? I want you to really think what is useful in a government class. So again, add to the list, and hopefully our class together can make a good working list for us to look at. And then the last one, and you might even have to pull from this one, what should we cover before the summer? So in the past, we've had students graduate and they said, I don't learn anything about taxes. I don't know what an interest rate is. I don't know this or that. So I try to get to it and I try to cover it, or if I don't cover it, I at least give you a resource. You can keep it in your email, you can bookmark it, and it is a very user-friendly, easy directions, or maybe even some online software to do it for you. For instance, when we covered taxes before, we broke down the tax brackets, what taxes are, the history of taxes, how the tax brackets have changed, the different types of taxes, where your tax money goes to, and I even offered you Credit Karma and kind of showed you the app and how easy it is, just like setting up a Snapchat account or something. So we covered taxes. So is there anything you think we should cover? Let me know, and then we can hopefully sneak it in. All right, that's all. Remember to answer those in comments. As I said before, this unit, chapter 13, 14, and 15, which you guys would have read the last 3 days, is all about citizenship in society. I think it's a great way to end the year. So for the next couple days, what we're going to do is analyze the current census data on society, discuss and describe education, and then summarize community citizenship. All right. So ignore this. These are actually 2 different images, but the US Census is finally done. It came back. We have roughly around 330 million people. You can check out the median household income at about $65,000. Poverty rate's about 12%, and the bachelor degree or higher attainment is about a third of our nation. So very interesting to look at. Most of the people in our country, not surprisingly, are 18 years or older, but not quite up to 65. The median age is 35.5. The foreign born is almost at 14%, and it's almost at an all-time high in recent decades. English is the primary language, Spanish coming in at 13.5%, and then other languages. let's keep moving through the data. Most of the population is white, 72%, and then almost 13% African American. After that is Asian, other races, and then 2 or more races. Our percentage of Hispanic or Latino citizens is almost at 20%. Those without healthcare is about 9.2%. If you take a look in 2014, it was a little higher, those without. Then it gets a little better, then it actually starts going back up to those without health insurance. Those with disabilities is almost at 13% of our population, and here's the different breakdown of the disabilities, such as having trouble living on their own, a cognitive disability, vision, hearing, and so on. Educational attainment is at 88.6, very close to 90%, which is good, but that's still over 10% of people that don't get an education. Something to work on, and that's the whole purpose of looking at census data. See what we're doing right to continue, and see where we have problems to address them. So if you take a look, high school or equivalent degree would be about a quarter, just a little more. Some college would be about 1/5. Same with bachelor's degree, 1/5. Associate's degree, almost 9%. And then a graduate or professional degree is about 13%. So not bad, but work to be done. Housing values, some of you will, especially because we live in Shamokin, you might say, like, what? The median housing value is almost $250,000. And you can take a look here at the key to go look at the different states. So Pennsylvania's up there. Here's the median gross rent. Not too high. I would say you can find this around our area. I think around Shamokin it might be something like 500 to 800. But let's say you go to Danville or you go to Lewisburg, other places could be 1,000 or more. Here's the income and poverty. Average, or not average, median income is at $65,000. Again, you can take a look at the scale. You can see which areas are making more money and less. All right, here's a couple infographics. I always apologize for the click to add text because I just have my PowerPoint not in presentation mode. And a student did contact me about fixing it, and she told me how, but I didn't listen. All right, so something to pay attention to is the percentage of never married adults by sex and age, and it's on the rise. So if you take a look at some of these graphs based on the age, you can see from 2006 to 2016 how much it had increased. In fact, basically it increases everywhere except for those 35 to 44%. It's an increase for women, not so much for men though. So something to pay attention to as well with this. Why do people even get married? Mostly for love. That's so nice. Making a lifelong commitment, companionship, almost half of them having children, and then other reasons like, this is actually pretty high, but financial stability. Right now, 4 in 10 new marriages involve remarriage. So something to pay attention to as well with divorce rates. Divorce rates also, by the way, ranging from about 40 to 50%. So, if you get married, flip a coin, and maybe that's close to predicting if you stay with your other or not. However, let's say you don't, there's a 40% chance that you might get married again. Now, this uses our divorce rate data also with a public opinion poll that shows 73% of people approve of divorce now. They say it's okay, it's acceptable. So it's pretty mainstream. Once you start getting into like the 70s, it's kind of like less controversial. The 60s, you can still say, we're pretty divided. 50, of course, we're divided. But when you get into the 70s, it starts to become a non-issue. Now pay attention also, divorce rate is becoming lower. At the same time, you remember less people are also getting married, and that might be one contributing factor to that. Let's keep going. Another image into our society, into our country, is that we are becoming more and more diverse, and you can pay attention to the percentage change in how certain groups are expanding faster. You can pay attention to this graph. The percentage of U.S. population that is foreign born is almost at an all-time high. Some more information that might be helpful or useful or at least interesting is to take a look at our immigrants, how many are naturalized or at least lawful or at least temporarily lawful residents. Maybe it's a student visa or something like that. About 23% would be unauthorized, and that looks like 10 million. Half of immigrants in the U.S. are English proficient, or over half actually. This takes a look at the birthplace of most of our immigrants in recent years in the millions, mostly from Mexico, but also China, India, the Philippines, and El Salvador. Many at the border also, if we've paid attention in recent years, coming from Central America. Among new immigrant arrivals, Asians outnumbered Hispanics, so this is again a recent trend that you can see more people from Asia coming to the US. This graph takes a look at refugees. So this has to do with immigration, but with refugees, something bad is going on in these nations and they have to get out, and they try to seek some ways like asylum. So can the U.S. protect them? There's a civil war or drought or famine or whatever going on, so they need a place to stay. Here's where some of the largest concentrations of immigrants are in big cities. This is nothing new to our history. These two tables would show the U.S. workforce and then also the immigration or the immigrants workforce. So you can see how it's grown, but it's actually declined with unauthorized immigrants, so like illegal immigrants. There's less of them working. Here's educational attainment among the U.S. immigrants. So you can check out the U.S. born. So 8% less than high school. We looked at this before, by the way. 28% high school degree, some college, and then bachelor degree or more. So you can see the foreign born. It actually stacks up with college degrees pretty well. However, the one with less high schools, much higher too. So you can check out which groups are college educated. Well, it looks like South Asia, holy smokes, 71%. So the immigrants coming from there are going to college. Central Asia is another high one. Canada, you have East and Southeast Asia, the Middle East, even Sub-Saharan Africa. Some of the higher ones with less than high school will be Central America and Mexico. Also Caribbean, almost at a quarter. Sorry, my computer's being slow. U.S. deportations of immigrants, slightly up in 2018. You can take a look at the numbers in the thousands. And they are also separated by criminal at the bottom and non-criminal. And this is, there's a lot to immigration, to ICE, to the deportation centers, to the border wall or the border fence. Like there's tons to talk about with this. The immigration courts are really bad too. There's a lot wrong with this, so it's kind of like a can of worms. But if you'd ever like to discuss any of that, send an email because there's a lot to go through with this. One interesting thing to notice when you look at the Obama years, deportations are actually higher than the Trump years. And this is one of the interesting findings because of all the rhetoric. All right, I'm pretty sure this is the last one on immigration, and we're almost done, I promise, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. So, U.S. immigrants recently have been seen more as a strength than a burden. Um, Something to pay attention to. All right, so I have more census stuff for us to look at, but this has to do with money and education to kind of wrap it up. Now, this is a nice infographic that the US Census created just on paycheck and money based on the jobs. So you can look at the different sectors, management and enterprises. This would be the average annual salary. Utilities, over 100 grand. Finance and insurance, over 100 grand. Mining, oil, gas extraction, 94 grand. You can look at construction, 64 grand. Manufacturing, 61. Real estate, 58. Healthcare, 52. Fishing, hunting, agriculture, 46. Admin, waste management, 43. Surprisingly, education would come up at 41,000. And there's a few other ones like food services at 21. Now the average for all of them is about $55,000. There are still earning differences. It's called the wage gap. It's you just have to be careful with it because it is a real thing. But there's also more factors to it, such as, well, job preference, hours worked, again, job selection. And you can pay attention to this as well because this shifts and this could actually change. Like in 20 years, maybe it could be the opposite way. Maybe guys are at home being dads more and women are working more, and they could get other jobs in other industries and make more. So that's the thing with census. That's the thing with stats and trends. They change all the time. So you can take a look at the lighter dots and then look at the dark green dots to see the shifts in so many different industries. Now you'll also see shift away from some things, like there would be less waitresses and also less women as rental clerks and working on counters. So it is interesting to see the shift, and money will shift too. It happens. So this graph would show household income by race, and it's interesting to see how they all kind of grow at a similar trend. But maybe surprising for you guys is that white would not be the highest earners. It would actually be Asians. You also have all the races. You have Hispanic and then Black. College degree attainment, something we also addressed early on in the PowerPoint, it remains the highest remains the highest in the Northeast. So that's where we live. That's awesome. And you can see how in each location it's actually grown. I was actually shocked by this because I thought everything would go down. If you take a look at this, it looks at educational attainment but compares the national average to African Americans. And you can take a look at a high school diploma or a bachelor's degree, and you can take a look at the years. Hopefully you noticed that this gap is not what you find anymore, which is great. Finally, some of our statistics between other races are becoming more even. So people still are going to college, and again, I was shocked by that stat because I know there's also like a giant anti-college movement as well. But what the data indicates as of 2020 and the years before and the years before that and the years before that is actually showing that the more educated you are, the more you'll make. Now again, these are medians. It's just based on probability. You could also go get a doctoral degree and do nothing with it, and you could have a good idea, drop out of high school and make a lot of money. It's just very unlikely. That's the thing. You can also take a look at the unemployment rate, and it's pretty crystal clear. Now this says weekly earnings, so I have another one for you that they just Northeastern University, they just did the math to show you. So like a year you might make 30 grand without a high school degree. With a high school degree, maybe you make 38. Some college 43, associate's degree 46, bachelor's 64 more, master's 77, and then when you start getting into the doctoral or the professional degree, basically the difference is you just have to like do like an internship for this or like field work, practicum, something like that. You start getting into the high 90s. Now again, maybe some of you are shocked by these numbers, but you also have to think in the area we lived in is like actually socioeconomically depressed. And those aren't my words, like that's what it's like labeled as. So, also, one more time, you can check out the unemployment rate. So, college is definitely not for everybody. It's not something to be pushed. Trades are fine. You making a business is fine. Learning skills is fine. But, we just can't lie about the data either, though. All right. Before I wrap it all up, there's one more thing that was in your reading, and it had to do with a budget. It kind of gave you, I don't know, four or six sentences. You can go check the reading, just about like this is what you kind of should do, but it's very like general and vague. And I think the books are written for sixth or seventh graders, so it doesn't really tell us too much. Now, I'm not necessarily telling you anything, but what I want to offer to you is consumer.gov, and it gives like all these trainings. Again, they have like graphics. It's interesting. There's videos, and it'll basically train you on budgets, how to make it, why you should have it, and it's just something nice that you guys should bookmark, and then it could be extremely helpful and useful to you. All right, let's wrap it up with the review questions. Remember to answer these in comments on Google Classroom. Number one, what were several takeaways that surprised you from our data? So we went over, 30 some slides. What were some things that jumped out at you? Maybe like one or two or three or four things you're like, oh wow, like that's interesting. I didn't know that. Because we talked about the reality of what our country is. Not what we think, not what we suspect, not what we see in an opinion or a Facebook post, but like what the data actually shows us. So tell me what shocked you. Number two, where can we go to learn and analyze our country's data? So this is a good one, and I didn't specifically cover this in the video, but you probably did notice a couple times you saw Pew Research Center, you might have saw Gallup poll, you might have saw Department of Labor, like their statistics, or even a census. Another good one for PA is the Pennsylvania, or sorry, like the Penn State PA State Data Center. They have so much good stuff. It's all interactive, it's easy to use, and if you're interested in any of this or any issue or anything that you want to learn about, check out all these sources. They're huge databases, they're really awesome and interesting. All right, remember to answer that in comments, and that's all I have for you tonight. Thanks for bearing with me, thanks for watching the video, and we'll get another one tomorrow. See you guys. Bye.